So welcome everybody to the next in our series of Get in the Groove workshops. And today we've got Helen Lindup, who's going to be talking to us about the really important and very basic topic of getting our email list sorted. If anybody doesn't use direct email to customers and things like that, it's a great opportunity to keep in touch, to convert customers, to buy more, do all kinds of things like that. And Helen is an absolute expert at helping people to choose the right platform and get all of their data in a really good state so that you're targeting the right people with the right messages. So thank you very much, Helen. Thanks for giving up your time to do this with us this afternoon. It's much appreciated. So over to you. Off you go.
Thank you very much. And it's great to see so many people here because I know sometimes email marketing is something that gets pushed to the back of the list, and sometimes it's seen as not as exciting as the next shiny thing in social media. So it's great to see so many people up for it today. I'm going to just start off a slideshow because I've got a lot of visual aids to show you on this. So let me start that off. I need to now hang on. I need to screen share, don't I? First, share my screen. Okay. Share my screen. Share. Okay, there we go. So hopefully, if I start off my slideshow from the beginning, can we see that? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that okay? Fantastic. Okay. So this is the first of two workshops, really. I'm doing the first one, and then Jules is doing another one next Wednesday. And we've split it up between us. And because I tend to deal with the more techie side of the email marketing, that's what I'm doing. So if you think of your marketing system as a series of pipes and buckets and taps that water flows through and your marketing flows through, I'm the plumber. And that's what we're going to look at today, the plumbing. And then Jules is looking more at the content side of it. So what you put in your emails and how you get those to convert to sales if it's a sales email. So if you think of this as sort of putting together the system and the foundation that the content sits on, that's what we're looking at. Now, obviously, that can be pretty complicated these days. The days when you just got everybody on one list and then sent the same stuff out to everybody, it's moved on a bit from that. So it can get pretty complicated with a whole range of tools and different techniques you can use. So I thought in an hour, I would give you a fairly top level overview to give you an idea of what's possible rather than getting too much into the detail. And the detail is difficult because there are so many different tools out there and everybody's using a different tool, really. So it's a bit of a tricky one to put together. But yeah, top level, give you an idea of what's possible. So I think a lot of people running small businesses don't know what's possible at all. To hopefully spark some ideas of what you could do. And then if you want to know about the nitty gritty later, you can contact me in the Slack group or in social media. And if there's time, we'll do some questions at the end as well. Okay. So what I'm actually going to cover is the two main, and I'm going to call them subscriber journeys that you need. Okay. So if you're getting people on a list, you need to take people through a journey where you're going to give them some content that's going to be of value to them. And there's two main ones that you can start with, and then you can make them more complex from then on if you want to. I'm going to have a look at landing pages and the difference between automated emails versus campaign emails. I know that confuses my clients quite a bit, so I thought I'd go through that. Anne asked me if I could talk about are pop-ups worth it? And also another question I get sometimes is, are lead magnets worth it? Do we still use lead magnets? I'm going to do a little bit on how to choose the right tools for everything that I'm going to tell you about. And then I'm going to talk about tagging so that you can give your subscribers what they're interested in rather than just hitting everybody with the same content. Okay, so quite a tall order in an hour, but we'll see how we go. Okay, so I'm going to go through, give you an example of a subscriber journey. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about funnels. Now, I don't use the word sales funnel or funnel. A lot of people still do. I don't, for a couple of reasons. The first one is that I don't think that it's actually a funnel anymore, because the path that people go through in your marketing is much more zigzaggy than that. And to call it a funnel, I think, it suggests that it's very smooth and everybody goes from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 and so on. But actually they don't, because they might join your list, then they might see some stuff by you on social media, then they might go to one of your webinars, then they might get an email from your email marketing. It's all very loose now. So what I try to do is I think of it as taking your subscribers on a journey. And it doesn't feel quite as sort of manipulative as a funnel would be as well. So I'm going to start with a journey that you've probably all been on many times. So that's the one where you go to a landing page and somebody says, download my checklist and join my mailing list, and you put your email address in the box, you hit subscribe, and you're on their mailing list. That's all quite familiar, I think. And then, of course, what happens next is you get an email saying, thank you for subscribing. Click here to download whatever it is that you subscribed to receive. Now, you don't absolutely have to have a freebie given away at the end. It's quite common that people do, but we'll have a look at some examples of where that isn't absolutely essential. So basically, we've got a landing page where you send people with the intention of getting them on your mailing list. Then you have an email marketing platform that automatically adds them to a list, and then it automatically sends at least one email generally, because people want confirmation that they've joined as a bare minimum, but it can then give them something to download, and you can then send them a whole series of emails. So you could send them an email course, or you could send them more sales emails down the line if you wanted to do that as well. It's entirely up to you. And that's a really, if you don't have any email marketing going on at the minute, that's a really good one to start with, because it's the simplest one. And most of the email marketing platforms now have make that process fairly easy to set up. Can be a little confusing to think your way through it the first time, but it's all the tools are there. You don't need to mess around with your website unless you absolutely want to. With that, you can, a lot of the email marketing tools come with built-in landing pages that you can use. Okay. So have I got any questions on what I've done so far before we look at a few landing pages?
I can't see you all if you put your hand up, because you're in a little strip across the top. So best use the chat box if you do have a question.
And I can't see the chat box either, Anne. So if you could
I'll
tell
keep
me,
an eye on that. Yeah.
that'd be fabulous. Yeah. Okay. So I asked in the Slack group for some landing page examples, and I came up with a really nice variety from Drive members. And I'm going to just take you through some of those. Now, I'm not saying they are all perfect, but they all show an interesting point that I want to make, and some of the owners don't even like them that much. I had one of the comments was, it works, but I don't really like it. And it's like, well, hey, it works. That's what's important. It works. So let's have a look. And I've seen beautiful landing pages, and I do wonder if actually they work. You know, do they actually convert people to subscribers? Right. So let's look at Karen's first of all. And the thing about Karen's is, as you would expect, being a designer, it's beautiful. It looks gorgeous. And let's just check we've got the right one there. Yeah. So there we go. So there's a newsletter. And you've got the, sorry, I've got too much on my screen here, just a minute. So we've got the opt-in box there. So put your first name and email in and hit submit, as you would expect. But if we go down, what I do like about it is you've got a picture of what you're going to get, which is really good. It sort of makes you visualize what you're going to get. You're not just sticking an email in a box. And there's some examples of recent topics that she's covered. And then another opt-in box, because once you've scrolled down the screen a bit, you've lost the first one. And then some testimonials. So what she's doing is she's really presenting that almost as a product in its own right. It's almost like something you might buy. So I think a good thing to think about that is that if you don't have a lead magnet, you need to have a reason for them to sign up. Just saying, join my list for updates is really not going to cut it. In most cases, you need to give them a reason to sign up, even if the pull is the newsletter itself and not an additional freebie that you're going to give them. So that's Karen's. Let's go to Rachel's here now. Rachel said, "Oh, I'm not too keen on mine, but it works, and that's what matters." So this is a lead magnet. It's kind of a lead magnet. You're getting something in addition to the emails for this. So you've got a 12-week business blog planner, and Rachel's got a picture of that, which is great. Helps people visualize what they're going to get. She's, as you would expect, got some great copy here on exactly what you're going to get to really tempt you to want that. There's in the opt-in box, you can choose whether or not you want to get emails from her as well. So that's it's kind of nice and transparent, but also great for GDPR purposes as well. And yeah, a bit more information about what you're going to get, and then another opt-in box a bit further down as well. So I think that's a good one. I like that one. Oh, a bit more about Rachel as well. And then I've got as another example. Now it doesn't have to be on your website. So this is Anne Archer, who does bi-monthly webinars in effect called Conversations with Coaches. And this isn't really a landing page. This is an Eventbrite page that you use to register for her webinar. But it's integrated with MailerLite. So anybody who signs up also goes on a MailerLite list, and then she can send them additional information, and she can send them the replay afterwards. So that's set up. And I've put that one in there just to show that a landing page that adds people to a list doesn't necessarily have to be on your website and be an official landing page. You can often hook them up, hook different tools together to build your list from that. And then I've got Ian's, which is a MailerLite landing page. So these are built into MailerLite. You don't have to put them on your website. You can just set one up completely. You don't even need a website to do this. You can use MailerLites. And he said it's one he put together quickly, but that in itself is a really good feature, because I think what people do sometimes is hang back until they can get it perfect, when actually you're missing leads, aren't you? You're missing out, so sometimes you're better off to put one up that's not quite as you would ideally like it to look, just to get some names on that list, and then build from there and develop it from there. So these were Ian's photography workshops, and he had people who were interested, and he just needed to gather those so that he could get in touch with them when he had a date for it to go live. So as you can see, wide variety of landing pages, and they are the one of the entry points to that system of pipes and buckets that I was talking about into your system. So it's worth having one or a few set up to just capture those people as you're going about your business. Have we got any questions, Anne?
No, lots of nice remarks, but no specific questions.
Okay, I'll take that as a good sign. But this is clear. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So I think probably if you can think of where you might insert a landing page into what you're doing already to capture people, that might be a nice thing to do at this stage with this information. Okie dokie. Let's go back to there. So what I'm going to do is I'll turn this into a PDF, and then everyone can have a copy of this afterwards. So you've got the links and so on for that. Okay. Right. So things that trip people up at this point that I found. Don't let GDPR stop you. Quite a few people are sort of really scared of getting into trouble with GDPR, but obviously it's a big subject. I'm not going to go into it now, but if you, being a very small business, rather than one of the big corporates that handles massive amounts of data, just think about consent. So just think about transparency. Don't anything you're going to send people, let them know you're going to send it. Put it on your landing page what you're going to send them. Don't just say, oh, you've downloaded my lead magnet, now you're on my list. That's not transparent. So if you keep that in mind and allow them to opt out whenever they want to, you're a good way there. And you don't need to get too hung up on it, and certainly don't let it stop you.
We've got a question about landing pages, Helen, before you move on too far. How many landing pages should one have, and does it not create lots of little mailing lists?
I would have, going to kind of come on to that later when I look at sort of segmenting your list a bit. I would, you need as many as you need, really. It's very hard to say. So I wouldn't go completely crazy, because the more you have, the more you've got to manage. But I would say where it fits naturally in. So if you've got an event and people come to your event and then they go away and you don't have any more contact with them, that's an ideal situation for capturing those leads, if you like, for use later, to tell them about your future events. So, you know, put one in there, that would be useful. If you're giving a certain amount of material away, put some of it behind a landing page and use it to gather some leads for that. So just, if you're not using them at all, just start to think where would be the easiest natural place to put one in, and then see how you go, and then build it from there. And you don't, the idea now is you won't have lots of different lists. What you do is you tag those people and you have one list, so that you can see within the one big list who's interested in what. I'm going to look at that in a bit more depth later on.
We had a good example of that last week, Helen. David was talking to people about running a free workshop to get people interested in his paid for workshop. So he was running a sort of free preview, and was was a bit fed up that quite a lot of people who'd signed up for the free event just didn't turn up. But of course, because he'd got their email addresses, he could then contact them and see, you know, if they were interested in other things that he was putting on. So it was a case of, just because they didn't turn up to that free event didn't mean that he'd lost them. You know, they're now, it's easy for him to contact them again. And
you can, he's got a list that he can tell them about the next maybe free event, and they might come along, or the next, the next paid event. It might be they just had a technical fault. They were fully intending to go and they just couldn't make it for whatever reason that day, but they're still really up for it. So we've got another question about lead magnets. Are the GDPR rules different for B2B and B2C? You can add people to a B2B list if you feel that what you offer may be useful to them, but always with a clear unsubscribe, of course. Yeah, it's a little bit murkier than that, because particularly in our line of work, where we're working with very tiny businesses, sometimes if they're micro businesses, they don't technically fall into B2B, so that gets a bit more complicated. So they're more like personal subscribers, but there's also other legislation that affects it as well. And also from a customer service point of view, it's people expect to have consent if they're sent something. So people are quite wired up about GDPR, even if technically and legally it doesn't apply. So I would say I would err on the side of being very transparent, whoever you're sending it to, just from a customer service point of view.
But having said that,
opinions vary.
Yeah, don't get hooked up on you're going to get fined, because you won't.
Yes.
The most people will do is have a shout at you, unsubscribe, and that'll be the end of it. There's so many small businesses have just ditched their whole lists because they thought they were going to get fined, and you know that just isn't the case. It just doesn't happen like that.
That's true. I mean, it's balance, really. I mean, if you're scraping email addresses off LinkedIn and then DMing people on LinkedIn, or scraping email addresses on LinkedIn and putting them on a list, you're not going to be popular, whether it's legal or not, are you? You know. Exactly. So I think it's just treat people with respect, isn't it? Really.
Sorry, if I
that's what they want.
Comment on this. I think what you say about the transparency, Helen, that's quite important. But I think I'll put the emphasis the other way around on this. That yes, the legislation, the law is not necessarily an obstacle, but you need to comply with it. And once you comply, you can go forward. So if I look at some of the ones that you showed there, there is no clarity on me. For instance, you need to say your privacy policy. You need to put a link there to your privacy policy and data protection policy. And the laws are actually made to facilitate this process, because by having the policies there, there is notice there that you've actually sent those. So I would emphasize on that transparency, them having the policies there and giving them the option, as you've said there, to unsubscribe on that. And B2B and B2C, I think that's also very important. Not exactly as is described in that last sentence itself. With B2C, you are contacting the customer directly. Yeah? It's like almost like ringing someone up directly, whereas you are ringing a business telephone number. So there's a significant difference there, because usually the business details would be public anyway. So you can argue that that's where you got them from. But the consumer, there are all kinds of issues around there. And what you say about small businesses, they are still a business, even if it's not a limited company, even if it's a sole proprietor, it is still a business in that sense, even though it might be one individual there that's identifiable. But you are emailing somebody trading as that. So that you also hinted on the other issues that come into play on that, and they are important, particularly if you are doing e-commerce. There's a whole host of legislation that comes into play as well.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Paul, can I just pause there, because I wasn't aware you were here. Maybe we could go into that at another time, because I know that is quite in depth. It's quite important. I don't have obviously your knowledge of it. So perhaps we could cover that another time, because you're going to have far more information on that than I would ever have, and be able to give people much more depth on that. So can we maybe park that one and then return to that, so that I can get into the stuff I do know more about? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's crack on, Helen.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So next thing I was just going to say, just stay positive about it. I think sometimes we're a bit apologetic about sending emails. I think you've got to have in your mind that you're sending something of value to people that they want to read. And if you've gathered those email addresses in the correct way, then they will want to hear from you. You're not a spammer. You shouldn't be a spammer, and you should be quite positive about what you send.
And
and I think sort of just.
Sorry, Helen, that just answers another question, which is what do you do if you've got orders from people, and can you convert those into, can you then contact people again via an email list if you've already got their details, because they are a customer?
Yeah, I mean, that's again probably more Paul's thing on the finer points of that, but to the best of my knowledge, it's a different situation. If they're already a customer, you can follow up with them again.
Yeah.
Okay, but generally, like I said, if you what you think from a marketing point of view, rather than from a GDPR point of view at this point, you need to really deliver what you promise in terms of your behavior and your branding. So if you can keep a consistent branding, colors, maybe logos, maybe a picture of you throughout that process, then that helps give people confidence. And I don't know who it was, but I have heard of somebody who is a coach and does quite a lot of personal development and has quite a nice manner. And then a client of mine said, I joined her list, was feeling quite upbeat, quite positive about what she sent. And then she absolutely hammered me every day with sales emails, which was completely jarring compared to her sort of the way she appeared in her videos in her products. So just be sort of consistent in your behavior and your branding to keep people on board, really. Yeah, okay. Anne asked me, pop-ups and lead magnets, are they worth it? So I'll start with pop-ups. Now, these are hated by many people. I know that. The question is, do they work? And it's difficult to say. I did some research on this to just try and get some definitive numbers. And the stats say, yeah, probably they do, but it's very, very dependent on the context. So you've got good pop-ups and bad pop-ups. You've got the ones that we all hate, which is you arrive at a website, you get no time at all to read what's on the website before you get hit by this pop-up and you've got to clear it to actually read what the website's about. That's not going to be great. But if you go to a website and you've got a nice blog post that's a tutorial that's incredibly helpful, you get a couple of minutes through it, and then a pop-up comes up and says, would you like a printable planner that you can use to help implement this as you work through? That's a different thing entirely. That you might be quite up for that. That might be quite useful and quite well timed. So it's very much dependent on where it appears, how it's done, and how intrusive it is, whether it's going to be effective. And I've got an example there from Pop-Up Ally, which is a pop-up developer, obviously. So theirs is quite good. So you've got a pop-up that tells you exactly what you're going to get. It's useful. It's targeted to the kind of people who might buy this pop-up. It's got the privacy policy. You can opt out of emails if you want to. So that's likely to be a good pop-up, a useful pop-up. But there are plenty that we've all come across that aren't. So it's very hard to say how effective they are from that point of view. I'm no SEO expert, but as far as I'm aware, if you've got an intrusive pop-up, that could affect your SEO as well. So one of those that doesn't let you read the site until you've cleared it, that's not going to be great. And also you have to keep in mind mobiles as well. So if you've got a small screen, big pop-up, you can't easily get to the cross in the corner to close it, it's not great. So if you keep those in mind, if you feel you'd want to give it a try, check your stats, see if it works for your particular audience, but making it tailored and fit within the context of your site is a much better way to go than just sticking them randomly, sticking them blindly on that home page that everybody sees the second they go to your site. Okay, any questions?
No, all done.
Okay, sorry, all done. Okay, right. Lead magnets. So these are the free gifts you give people when you want them to join your list. They, again, can be very effective. You tend to need to be more tailored with them than you used to. People are less excited by a PDF download than they used to be 10 years ago. So it's often a question of really tailoring them very closely to the people you want on your list. And that's in terms of the subject, as you would expect, but it's also in terms of what you want them to do and what they are going to do with that information. So, for example, sometimes I see virtual assistants that are thinking of doing PDFs on how to do what they do. And it's like the whole point of hiring a virtual assistant is that you don't want to do that. You want to get someone else to do it for you. So if you're running a service business, it's not that you don't want to give away your best secrets, you want to attract people who don't want to do it. So think about how people are going to use that information in a lead magnet. And also, it doesn't have to be a downloadable PDF. A free e-course can work quite nicely. If you've got an e-commerce store, then a 10% discount you could consider that to be off your first purchase. Could be a lead magnet. Anything to tempt people to join up. Can't see what I put there because the pictures are in the way. Hang on. Where are we? Oh, no, gone over a bit more. Let's go back. Okay. Yeah, and so the thing I said before about you can't get them to download a lead magnet and then sign them up for marketing emails without their consent anymore. Okay, any thoughts on lead magnets? Ooh, very quiet.
Sorry,
Okay.
it's hi.
Right. Yeah.
Can you hear me? It's Dennis.
I can hear you. Oh yeah, I can't see you, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Can I just tease out what you said there about consent, and is that different to the different layers of consent, and what did you just say?
Yeah, it's not again not my expert field, but all I was saying was that before the GDPR rules came in, what was common was that people would say, download my free ebook on whatever, and then you would get signed up for marketing emails, and you would have no say in the matter. You know, you would just be automatically on the list, and that would be it. I'm just saying you can't do that now, and it was not great in the first place, to be honest, because it wasn't really honest. But so you need to be you need their consent to also add them to your marketing list. They're two separate things, and you need consent for both of those if they're entering their email address. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
A couple of other questions here, Helen. Is there a steer on the different methods of PDF versus emails versus videos versus audios?
What in terms of lead magnets? I think really just what is likely to be the most useful and attractive thing for your audience, because that's the point of it, is to get people on your list, okay, in a ethical way, but so whatever's going to appeal to them, and it doesn't have to be big. You know, some of the most useful ones I've had are really just 3 sheets of a PDF that I just fill in the boxes. It's a printable planner has been incredibly useful. And I think if you think about people are really busy these days, they don't want to read an entire ebook. Sometimes the shorter the better. So something that absolutely nails it and solves a problem is going to be the thing to aim for, rather than something big, heavy and long and that takes a long time to consume.
Okay. And another question here about doing a joint webinar with another small business. They want people to sign up to the webinar, but also would like them to join both email lists. Can you do that with one click? I would think not.
Well, it depends on what you're using, really. And again, that there are legal implications of that as well, because I'm not sure if people join a webinar with two presenters, they would necessarily expect to be added to both of their lists and receive marketing emails from 2 people. So you've got those implications to think about as well. But yeah, so that would concern me more than physically how to do it, because if physically how to do it, at an absolute minimum, you could export those people from one person's list and import them to the other person's list. I mean, yeah, there's a way of doing that somewhere. Whether you should is the bigger question, I would say, to that one. Yeah,
I would suggest you'd need permission for both for those.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it for the questions for the moment.
Oh, okay. Okay, so moving on to, we did one subscriber journey. Let's have a look at another one. So this is where you've got an online store, and they hit buy now, and they are added to your mailing list. And then they'll get the initial email, of course, that would normally probably come from your shopping cart plugin if you're using WordPress or Shopify or something like that, to say thank you, your purchase is on its way. But maybe 2 days later, you want to put a little delay in there, and you want to say thank you, your product is on its way. While you're waiting, would you also like this discount code on this particular product from our store? So you can pick up additional sales from that. So you're going from a purchase in an online store, you're adding them to your list from there, or updating your list maybe if they're already on it, because they may be already on it. And then you're sending emails to ultimately to get more purchases, but you're going to do some relationship building along the way as well. So you might tell them a bit about the values of your business, or your why you started out, why you feel it's important, why you're different from other people, tell a story, that sort of thing. But ultimately you can make more sales further down the line because you've got them on a list that's easy to email. Okay. Okay, are we okay with that second subscriber journey? So the first one, you're really collecting kind of leads from people who haven't bought from you. This one, it doesn't have to be a physical product. You can do that with a digital product that you've sold as well. This is a customer list that you're building. Okay. Something else that confuses people quite a lot, I find, is that I've been talking about automated emails. And those are emails that are triggered by an event. So it might be they joined your list when they downloaded the lead magnet. It might be that they made a purchase. It might be they signed up for your course. Any number of triggers that can fire off that automated email, or the first in a series, and then some others 2 days later, and then another one 2 days later. So that happens, you set it up once, and every time that trigger happens, those emails are sent out. So for a small business where you're doing a lot of it all yourself, one person's doing a lot of it, those are great because they save you a lot of time. Bit of setup saves you loads of time down the line. They're working 24 hours a day for you. And they're especially good for new subscribers because when people sign up to your list or they buy something from you, they're kind of fired up, and you want to kind of catch them on a high and start building that relationship with them. So it's great to have an automated email doing that, so you don't have to remember to do it every single time. It does it for you. That's different from a campaign or a broadcast email. Now, those are more like your traditional newsletter that you send off to lots of people at once. Doesn't have to be your entire list. It can be a segment of your list. But that's sort of more of a one-off email that you send. And I think if you can get in your head that you can do both, you've then got the potential to kind of start designing a little system that you can create that is more automated. And also those can be scheduled. So I could write an email today and I could schedule it to go out for next Wednesday for a webinar I'm running on Thursday, something like that. But you don't have to do them on the spot, but they're not triggered by anything in particular or any particular event. Okay, before I get into tools, I'll just take a bit of a pause there, because that's, again, quite a lot of information.
Okay, no questions coming through.
No questions? Okay, right, the tools, big question. Now, there are tons of tools, loads of tools, and I'm talking email marketing platforms, obviously, but you've got all sorts of things that integrate with them. It's quite bewildering. So how do you choose? How do you choose? Well, the first thing I would say is you start with your strategy, because otherwise you're just going to go round in circles, because this tool does all these things and then this one does a load more, and then but can you afford that one? But you know, is it worth it? So if you start with what you want to achieve, it's going to be a lot easier than being a kid in a sweet shop with all these different tools that you could choose. So what do you want to achieve? And then if you look at the tools you already have, because maybe you're looking to do some email marketing, but you've got WordPress and a WooCommerce plugin. What integrates with that, and how easy is it to do, and how expensive is it likely to be? That isn't to say you have to stay with the tools you've got. In fact, it may be you need to upgrade and change some. But at least if you know where you're at, you can make informed decisions based on that, rather than going with the next shiny object that everybody says you must have, which is quite tempting sometimes. So have a good look at what you've already got and what will work with that. And also one I think that doesn't get talked about too much is your comfort level with the technology, because I know there are sometimes people who are sold really quite powerful tools, and either they're never going to use 90% of it, or they hate it, or it confuses them and they never use it. So if you're going to manage it yourself, get a tool that you can manage yourself and you don't mind using. If you're going to get someone to do it for you, then maybe you can justify having something a bit more complicated, because you're going to have an expert working on that for you. But don't go for the all singing, all dancing tool if you don't feel comfortable with using it, or you can't see yourself becoming comfortable with using it. And you need to allow yourself a bit of room to grow, because you're aiming for your business to grow, of course. But actually, that isn't a major problem, because these platforms are being developed all the time. And if anything, they've got too much rather than not enough. So the chances are they're going to grow faster than you a lot of the time. But it's always good to have one eye on growing as time goes by. So you don't have to upgrade the whole thing in 3 months' time if you've outgrown it. Again, less and less likely to occur, I think, these days. I would love to be able to say, yeah, everybody use MailerLite. It would make my life really easy, but it's just not that simple. So if you need any advice on what to use, what's going to be the best bet for your business, just let me know, and I can, at the very least, give you some pointers of what platforms have worked well for the clients I've worked with and for people that I know. Ask me, missed that. Ask me. Okay, I have another subscriber journey coming up. Are we ready for it? Do we have any questions? Stunned silence.
All quiet.
All quiet. Okay. Right. So this is going to answer the question of, if you've got a load of landing pages, don't you have a load of lists? And if you do it right, no, you shouldn't have. This is why. Right. So this is subscriber journey 1. So this is the kind of freebie list with the lead magnet. So we've got our landing page like before: download my checklist and join my mailing list, subscribe, as we had before. But we also have a second landing page, and this one is get my free course when you join your mailing list, join my mailing list. So 2 landing pages. What do you do with that? Okay, well, here's what you do. So Bob wants to download the checklist. So you tag him checklist. Mo wants to get access to the free course. So you tag him free course. And look, you've already got somebody called Joe on there who has signed up for your newsletter before you even set up these landing pages. So she's tagged newsletter. So the idea with that is that you know what everyone's signed up for, but you also know what they're interested in. So you can use it to break down your list into what people are interested in and only send them what they're interested in. So then what you do is you have an email that goes out to just the people tagged checklist that gives them access to the checklist. And you have an email that goes out to just the people tagged free course that gives them access to the free course. And of course, that's just the beginning. You can send them all sorts of resources down the line that are related to what they're interested in. And I've even set it up so that when, for example, Mo has finished the free course, it triggers a change of tagging so that he then goes on the newsletter list as well. So you've got all sorts of potential to automate beyond this, but this is the basic idea. Now, most platforms use tagging. You could use that. MailerLite uses groups rather than tags, but they work in a very similar way. So there aren't any tags on MailerLite, but the principle is very, very similar. MailChimp uses groups and tags, which is fun. So very confusing. So that would be typically for an information product, a free gift, a lead magnet. A similar thing for an e-commerce or where you're selling physical products would be this. So you've got somebody buys a set of wine glasses, somebody else buys a teapot. So Bob is tagged with glassware, Mo is tagged with teapots, and of course Joe is already there on the newsletter list, tagged with newsletter. So let's get both of those up. There we go. Oh, there we go. So I'm trying to move the Zoom screen so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So yeah, so Bob has bought his wine glasses, and then 2 days later he gets an email saying, while your wine glasses are on the way, we've got some special offers on wine. Would you like to see them? Click on this link to see them, because he's tagged glassware, and then because Mo is tagged teapots, he gets the offers on tea. So that's how you have basically one big list, and you've got the list broken down into little segments or using tags so that people get what they want to get, rather than everybody just getting the same offers on the same products. How you set that up depends on the tools you've got. So that's not something I can really get into at the moment, but I just wanted to get across the potential there, so that if you think that's something you might want to do, you can look into whether the platform you have already does that. And if you have any questions, I think probably just ask me individually in the Slack group really for that one. Did we have a question?
How do
I thought we
you
had
how do you plan your campaigns journeys? Good old paper and pen, or something more tech and fancy?
I think whatever works for you, really. I think probably Jules is going to go into a bit more depth on that. That's kind of more of a content thing. The way I would start with this is, if you've not done any of this before at all, I'd probably start with just one simple list, like the getting people on your newsletter list, because that's not going to be too challenging. If you get too complex too soon, it's very hard to manage. So I wouldn't do that. I would start simple. And then I would look at maybe breaking down your subscribers into their natural groups. So, for example, you may have people who just buy glassware and aren't interested in teapots or the equivalent in your business. Looking at Rachel's example, she had a blog planner. So she was trying to get on a list people who are interested in planning their blog content specifically. And then what would she naturally give to them after that? She would probably work up to selling them a course on planning your blog content. So it's just breaking down what you want to sell, how that fits in, and how you can deliver content that meets those objectives, both yours and theirs, really. But I believe more on that next time.
There's another sort of supplementary to that. How does the tagging work with permissions? If someone's signed up for an e-course and it finishes, are you allowed to put them on a different tagged list?
I think it's all down to how you word it on the landing page mostly. Again, it's probably something that Paul could definitely go through the finer points of on a different day. Mostly what I see is people saying, I in effect consent to receiving marketing emails from you. So they're not consenting specifically to emails on glassware, they're consenting to marketing emails generally from you. But yeah, finer points of that.
Some of the more complicated ones give you options to change your own permissions, don't they? So they give you a link to a page where you can opt into weekly emails, daily emails, marketing, updates on the platform, all of that kind of thing, and you can control that yourself as a subscriber.
I think that the trick.
Yes, some of them do when you.
Yeah. So just quickly, the trick there is the statement that you had before they consented. So if that statement was general enough, you can use it the way you want to use it for marketing.
Yeah.
But if it was very specific for that course, then that's the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all of this, there's the two sides of things. There's the legal side, and there's also the technical side. So sometimes what you can physically do is different from what you really legally should do. So there is that to keep in mind. But yeah, you can, and also you could send out an email with a clickable link in it that says, if you would like to know about this subject, click here, and then it will tag them as being interested in that subject and fire off another sequence of emails. So they can consent in that way as well.
So Charlie's saying it feels like it could all get out of hand.
Yes, it can. And I think, again, kid in a sweet shop effect. It's a lot of the skill in it is reining yourself in, and saying, right, be really focused. What is going to have the biggest impact now? And do that, and check your stats, because the one thing about this is you get an absolute wealth of stats coming out. And is it worth you continuing with this? And if it's not, then try something else, tweak, edit, change. Yeah, but no, I guarantee if you start off from the scratch with a whole load of different subscriber journeys, you're not going to get the benefit from those. You're much better starting off with one and focusing and getting it right. Any more?
No, that's it for now.
That's it for now. Okay. All right, that was my thank you slide. So I thought you probably have had enough at that point, but like I said, it is pretty complex. That was a fairly quick, high-level run through of what's possible. And I'm sure I'll get some questions beyond that. But I think, yeah, with this, focus is important. Focus and goals and strategy is important before you start diving into the tech. It quickly can get out of hand if you start going, oh, it can do this, let's try that. You end up wasting a lot of time on that.
Okay, so Helen, thank you very, very much. That was excellent. You've got such a lovely, easy manner. You can tell that you've been a tech trainer in the past. It all comes across so calmly and beautifully.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. We'll get all this put up on the Drive website in the Learning Hub, and as Helen said, she'll supply copies of the slides and PDFs and things like that, so that you've got all the links that were mentioned in there. But thank you, Helen. That was wonderful. And we look forward to seeing part 2 from Jules next week.
Thank you.
Okay.